Welcome to Wholesale Supplies Plus. I'm Debbie May, and today we're going to make melt and pour soap. I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Natalie May, my daughter. Today we're going to make the 3 bars you like the best: the goat milk, the oatmeal, a layered bar of oatmeal and goat milk, and this really fun loaf soap, which is oatmeal, milk, and honey. To make this soap, we need to use 3 different soap bases. All of these are the Crafter's Choice bases: the oatmeal, the goat milk, and the sweetened honey. We're going to use a fragrance oil called oatmeal and honey. Do you like it?
Smells like fresh oatmeal.
Just like the oatmeal we eat in the morning. And then the Crafter's Choice oat scrub, which is a whole oat. The equipment you're going to need today is a digital scale, a digital thermometer. We're going to use 2 different Crafter's Choice silicone molds, the basic rectangle and the silicone loaf. I like these because they're kind of flexible and really easy to unmold your soap. Make sure you put them on a cookie sheet so that if you have to later move your soap, you do so without disrupting the soap. A miter box with a soap cutter. Natalie, why don't you go ahead and introduce the back row?
You're also going to need a glass bowl, a spatula, a tablespoon, a paper plate with plastic spoons, and rubbing alcohol.
To get started, we're going to melt the oatmeal soap first. You'll want to have your digital scale set to 0. Go ahead and put your Pyrex bowl on the scale. You'll press this button called tar, which will take the scale back to 0, ignoring the weight of the bowl. You're going to want to add 22 ounces of soap to this, Natalie. Now you're going to want to melt this soap for 1.5 minutes in the microwave on high heat. You can see after 1.5 minutes, Natalie, that a lot of it's already melted, but a lot of it's chunky. Go ahead and give it a little bit of a stir. You want those hot pockets to kind of mix in. That's perfect. And just set that back on your plate. We'll put this in for another 60 seconds. Now that the soap's completely melted, you can add your fragrance. You'll want to add 2 tablespoons, which is the same as 1 ounce. Perfect. Mix it real well using the spatula this time. You want to get it mixed really, really well. You want to fill 1 bar completely. That's good. 1 bar halfway up. A little bit more. That's perfect. And your other bar, the rest of the soap you're going to put in the loaf. Go ahead and pour it all in. Good job. You can take the spatula if you want, or if you need to scrape the rest of the soap out. Good. Now, just in case you have air bubbles on the top of your bar, go ahead and spritz it with rubbing alcohol to pop those bubbles. Good job. Why don't you go ahead and get out the goat milk soap, and then we're going to melt the same amount as we did the oatmeal, 22 ounces. There's real goat milk in this.
Is there?
Yes. It's supposed to be good for the skin. I think it's pretty moisturizing. That's perfect, 22 ounces. We'll go ahead and melt this now the same way we did the oatmeal soap, in short intervals. Now that this is completely melted, go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of fragrance. That's 1 ounce. I know you like it really strong, but you never want to add more fragrance. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because too much fragrance can actually irritate the skin. You always want to use what's recommended. Go ahead and stir it up good. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You want to make sure the soap's 130 degrees because when you pour your second layer, if it's too hot, it'll melt through the first layer of soap. So go ahead and take the digital thermometer and measure to see the temperature.
It's 140 degrees.
Oh, that's a little too warm. We'll have to wait.
Okay. Now it's 130 degrees.
Perfect. This bar we can just pour, but this bar we'll need to spray rubbing alcohol so that the 2 layers of soap stick to each other. So go ahead and pour your first bar. That's good. Now spritz the air bubbles with rubbing alcohol and then give this bar a really good spritz of rubbing. Good. and just fill it up. That's perfect right there.
Do I need to spritz the big one too?
Yes. Otherwise, when you cut your loaf, the bar will fall apart into puzzle pieces. Very good. Now you'll want to drizzle back and forth so that there's no heat in any one area. Perfect. Good. Spritz it so you don't have air bubbles. And you see all the soap you spilled? That's what soap makers do.
Okay.
Now it's time to melt 16 ounces of the honey soap. There's real honey in this soap.
Like on Grandpa's farm?
Yep, except there's no stingers and wings in this soap.
What's the benefit to using this?
Honey's really nice because a lot of people think it's moisturizing to the skin. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and melt this. Go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of fragrance to the soap now. You don't want to add more because there's a lot less soap than we were making before. Perfect. Stir it really well. Do you know why you stir it well?
Why do I have to stir it?
Because oil likes to float on water, and soap is actually a water-based product, so if you don't stir it well, the oil will just sit on the top. Now we'll want to make sure this is 130 degrees before we pour our next layer, or else that soap will go down into the loaf and it won't be so pretty. What's the temperature?
130 degrees, exactly.
Perfect. Now the other trick is we need to make sure this soap has a light skin on it and is nice and firm so that it can support the next layer of soap. Now that the temperature of the soap's 130 degrees, you'll check the loaf, and do you see how you can kind of bounce it? It's got a nice skin on top.
Yeah.
That means it's ready for the next layer. Go ahead and spritz this with a really good layer of rubbing alcohol. Perfect. Then you'll want to drizzle that back and forth, not in one spot. Nice and slow, not too fast. Perfect. Keep going a little bit more, all around. A little bit more. Perfect. We're going to spritz any bubbles, and then go ahead and we'll make a bar out of that. That'll make a nice moisturizing bar in the morning. Go ahead and fill the bar up. Perfect. You have a little bit left over. Let's see if we can add a little bit to this layer. Go back and forth, nice and even. Good. You can fill a little more in that one. I don't like to waste anything.
Yeah.
Perfect. Pop the air bubbles. Now we're going to go ahead and add oatmeal oats to this. You'll just want to pack it in. If you did happen to break through, and we did here, our temperatures were a little bit off, this recipe is so good because it hides little mistakes like that. And you want to just sort of pat it in. Go ahead and you can do the rest. And you want to make sure all of the oatmeal has a little bit of soap, or when you go to slice it, the ones that aren't touching soap will just fall out. It's kind of like the glue. Mm-hmm. Then just pack it nice and tight. You might want to use your spoon if you don't want to get soap on your hands. Perfect. Now we're going to let this cool naturally. You don't want to put it in the refrigerator and speed it up. Ask me what happens when I do that.
What happens?
It'll break apart and the soap will become brittle. I learned that the hard way years ago.
Okay.
It's time to unmold our soap now, and it's very, very easy with these silicone molds. Simply pull the sides away, turn it over, and push it out. Now let's cut this loaf into bars. You'll want to place it in your miter box, and I really like this miter box because it has a full front. Our old one used to only have a half front, and your cuts were really crooked and they didn't look very professional. And then with quite a bit of pressure, you push down. Now what happens is you have a perfect bar of soap. That's
that
the
looks
soap.
Nice.
That's the soap you made. Now I'm going to show you what you can do with this slice. Come on over. Set it in the middle of plastic wrap, and I like the cheapest plastic wrap you can find because it stretches. Put it in your hand, and you see how you stretch and it pulls? Mm-hmm. And you can go this way and this way. Now, if you end up with too much, you can always cut that. Can you grab a piece of tape for me, and I'm going to show you something neat. Perfect. This is our soap box. Go ahead and put that together for me. Okay, not the other end. We're going to put the soap in first. Then when you slide it in and close it up, it's a perfect size box, and you can see each of the 3 layers of your soap. Now, if you don't want to do a soap box, another option is something called a cello bag. It's just a really shiny candy bag. We'll do this bar. Just slide it in, and then I'll have you hold it for me. And then you can just tie it like that. It makes a really cute package. Now we're going to make a shrink wrap bar of soap. Shrink wrap's really cool because it shrinks 40% of its size. Wouldn't that be a fun diet? So we'll go ahead and place it in the wrap. It's going to kind of want to stick to the sides, but that's okay. Just get it down all the way to the bottom. And then kind of like a package, put a piece of tape there. I like to use a regular hair dryer for this. Some people use a heat gun, but I think that gets too hot and actually melts the soap. And then while it's still hot, go ahead and push in your edges. You have a nice professional bar of soap. Thanks for watching today's demonstration. We've had a lot of fun teaching you how to make this soap, and look forward to seeing you again soon. You can find this recipe along with others at WholesaleSuppliesPlus.com. Wholesale Supplies Plus carries a full line of soap and candle making materials. Feel free to call us with questions. We feel your success is our business.